Today on Locked On Red Wings, a World Junior Championship recap, the best case and worst case scenario in year one for Derek Lalonde, and then how do you feel about it Friday to wrap things up?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's go! That was the first try, baby. First try.
I was like,
how
what
good
is he
that sounded?
screaming about? He did. He got it. That's the first time. I don't know if I could tell you the last time that you got it in the first
It
try.
was so clean.
It was. No, you nailed it. Good articulation, no stumbles at all. It was solid.
Today, Thursday, on we're recording this, is the first day I've hosted the Daily J. And so I spent all day recording and re-recording lines. So I'm just in that recording radio voice zone. I'm in the zone right now. So cold open, that's the best part of the day. Better than the whole Daily J thing is the cold open. Was the best one take.
30 seconds right there. It was the highlight of Brian's day.
Let's go. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Scotty, today you and I are going to talk about World Juniors first, but after that, we're going to talk about Derek Lalonde, best case, worst case scenario. Since we've finished up on the players, I think it's pertinent to talk about the fact that, actually, it was your idea. I think it's pertinent to talk about the fact that it's his first year with the Detroit Red Wings as the Red Wings look to take a step forward in their development, or in this rebuild, rather. So we're going to talk about him and what we expect from him. And then segment 3, it's Friday, so let's have some fun. How do you feel about it Friday? But back to what we're talking about, segment 1 here. Some Red Wings prospects. There were, 9 of them at World Juniors. We talked about it a little bit here and there, doing updates as this tournament went on. But we haven't talked about it since the playoffs portion of it began, and it's since over. Canada, of course, won gold again because Canada remains a powerhouse, but it did go to overtime, and Finland did nearly win it. But holy cow, that goal line save by McTavish was phenomenal. He's not a Red Wings prospect. He's an Anaheim Ducks prospect, but the captain of Team Canada, that goal line save directly kind of led to the game-winning goal by the Canadians. That was incredible, first off.
Yeah, and he had like really messed up a defensive sequence about like 3 or 4 minutes earlier too. Like he had really took it in the chin and like was really getting kind of flamed by some people for a really bad defensive breakdown earlier. So to see him like make it up with the game on the line was super cool. Yeah, look, I like hot take, and I know that Red Wings fandom as a whole, there's a lot of people that it's a nice little sweater zip up thing you got going on there.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice.
Oh, let's say.
Yep, you almost got it. There you go. It's like hot take. I actually really like the Ducks. Like I know that people.
Oh, you've said that before,
right? I know, but like everybody like freaks out if you say anything positive about the Ducks or about Trevor Zegras or anything, because of like the whole, NHL was all about Zegras all season. Like our guy won the award. Like it's everything's fine. You know what I mean? Like nothing, whatever. He made the highlight flashy plays. Our guy won the award that he deserved to win. I'm not sure why we're still like really mad and like hating the Ducks organization. Former Red Wing is now running the show. Former Red Wings front office person is now their GM too. Like it's really, I don't know. I really like what they got cooking over there. I like all their young prospects. So seeing McTavish do that was super fun. And they were that team as a whole, the Ducks were pretty well represented in World Juniors, just as we were.
Well, and so the Red Wings had 2 members of Team Canada win gold as part of their organization. And that was Donovan Sobrango, obviously. He looked solid all season, or all tournament long. He had 2 assists, just those 2 points, plus 7. He looked very sound. He looked very well-rounded. He made smart plays. I really liked what I saw of Donovan Sobrango. I mean, he not too surprised. I mean, he played last season with the Grand Rapids Griffins. You're playing the second best professional hockey in the world. down there at the Grand Rapids Griffins. So I'm not surprised by his development and how he showed out against fellow U20 players. Sebastian Cossa only played the one game against Latvia. He looked fine, but he also got a gold medal. So I'm really happy with how Donovan Sobrango showed out. But I think the guy who really stole the show in terms of Red Wings prospects, and we've mentioned him in the past, but that's got to be Carter Mazur. Carter Mazur, unfortunately, Team USA got knocked out in the quarterfinals. It was disappointing. We were Americans. We wanted Team USA to win. But in the games that they did play, Carter Mazur had 7 points. He had 5 goals and 2 assists. And I talked about Donovan Sobrango making the smart plays from the defensive side of things. Carter Mazur was just such an all-around complete package this tournament. And I mentioned it before, but he never went out there and he never wowed with his performance. He didn't, he did wow with his performance, but he wasn't doing flashy plays. He wasn't going out there and making 4 or 5 slick moves to score a goal. He was setting up plays, breaking into the zone, and then getting into a position to receive the pass back and score a goal. I saw 3 or 4 goals where he was just in the right spot for his teammates to set him up. He kept putting himself in positions to succeed, and that is why he did so well. And to cap it off, and when Dan Cleary talked during development camp about Carter Mazur really showing huge improvements since last season, we saw it. Now we have the words from Dan Cleary, but we also have the film on ice. He does look way better than he did last season. He's took a huge step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It was World Juniors are always one of my favorite things to watch. One of my favorite sporting events of the calendar year is World Juniors. It's super cool to see just this pool of talented prospects, and especially again once you get into the later parts of the tournament and you see these powerhouses like Canada and such. So seeing our guys, we talked about it when the World Juniors first started, we were pretty well represented. The Red Wings were pretty well represented as a whole, scattered across all countries. It was really, really cool to see. And yeah, I agree. There were definitely some standouts, and it would have been really cool to see USA go further, like you said.
That's
and yeah,
hockey, right?
Friend of the program, Red Savage looked pretty nice.
Yeah, he looked really good on the fourth line. He's having 3 points, 2 goals, and 1 assist from fourth line production is really solid.
Yeah, there was
he
one
brought a
game
scoring touch to that
specifically,
bottom 6.
I think he had a goal and an apple in one game specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, he was, put it this way. So Carter Mazur had 7 points, but was only a +1. Red Savage had 3 points, but was a +5. So when he was on the ice, the team was scoring more goals and they were getting scored on at a better rate than what was happening when Carter Mazur was on the ice. So Red Savage definitely helped provide more offense and more defense as well for Team USA before they got, unfortunately, again, eliminated in the quarterfinals. Team Sweden won bronze in this one. Simon Edvinsson, William Wallander, and Theodor Niederbach all looked pretty solid as well. Simon Edvinsson had a bout with food poisoning, which is why his production and play kind of took a dip. He missed a couple games and came back, and he wasn't quite there, but he was still pretty good. But early tournament, Simon Edvinsson looked great. He had 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. William Wallander had 3 assists for 3 points, and Theodor Niederbach had 1 goal and 3 assists for 4 points. All 3 of them looked really good. I'm really excited about the Swedish prospects that are coming over and soon to be in the Red Wings.
Good, because we have a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, especially when you lump Albert Johansson in there as well. That's
for sure.
Especially in the defensive Swedes we have. Johansson, Wallander, Edvinsson. Wow. This defensive core is going to look very Swedish and very good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm pumped, man.
And then the other 2 guys, Emil Viro played with Team Finland. He won silver with Team Finland. He had 1 assist. Didn't really see too much out of Emil Viro that left me going, oh, wow, this guy, not to sound rude, but just comparing to the other Red Wings prospects, he didn't wow me as much. Same thing with Jan Bednar. He had 1 win. He had an assist, which is interesting, and an 8.5 save percentage. Not necessarily the best out of Jan Bednar from Team Czech, but nine prospects. Deep pool for the Red Wings at World Juniors.
What did we say at the beginning? World Juniors only matters if it helps your narrative.
If it helps your narrative. And Team Canada, Team Sweden, and Team USA really helped our narrative. So,
absolutely. Dang right.
We like those guys. When we come back, we'll talk about Derek Lalonde's worst case and best case scenarios for this upcoming year. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are going to transition now to talking about Derek Lalonde and his best and worst case scenarios with the Detroit Red Wings as his first year in head coach. Scotty, as I just prefaced it, it's his first year as not just the Detroit Red Wings head coach, but as a head coach in general at the NHL level. Steve Yzerman plucked him right out of the winning organization, Tampa Bay Lightning, where he was once general manager. No surprise really there. What are we expecting as the best and worst case scenario when it comes to Derek Lalonde in year one?
Yeah, so I think, like, when judging a coach, I think a lot of this stuff will obviously be reflected in the record at the end of the season, right? Like, that's like the easiest thing to point to and just go, hey, how many games do we need to win for everybody to be satisfied? But also, not all records are the same, in the sense that, injuries can happen. Massive like the Tigers, like, everyone can just be terrible, and it doesn't even have to be the manager's fault entirely. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's not necessarily all equal in that sense. But I think objectively, one of the things we can all look at and agree on, that he is going to be judged very, I don't want to say harshly, because I don't want to make it like a negative connotation, but very, like, strictly. Like, everyone's going to be very much paying attention to the special teams. I think that's hands down the biggest thing. And I know that he's not full like in charge of it right off rip. And I know that we kept some coaches from last year and whatnot, but that has been a massive failure over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years with this team. And we went out and signed free agents to fit a scheme, like fit the better special teams, like, personnel. We have better personnel for penalty kill and power play. And I truly think, again, even though he's not necessarily like the special teams coach, he is the head coach, and that is something that has been so bad. I think that he will be graded pretty harshly on that. So in my, like, best and worst case, I think that will probably have a decent amount to do with it.
So I kind of sort of agree with you on this, not fully. I do think that there is going to be a focus on what Derek Lalonde can do as a first-time head coach. But I think just from the regards that, one, he was handpicked by Steve Yzerman, because we give a long leash to Steve Yzerman. So by consequence, whoever Steve Yzerman picks is going to get a longer leash as well. I think also the fact that he is that first-time head coach, people are going to be a little bit more patient with him. I mean, look at what is happening with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Have you ever seen, I mean, one, Dan Campbell seems likable. We didn't have that with Matt Patricia. People didn't like him immediately, which means the short leash was that much shorter. But when people like a guy, and if he's a first-time head coach on a rebuilding team, I think people are a little bit more forgiving of problems. The difference here is Dan Campbell took over a team that is at the beginning of a rebuild, where Derek Lalonde is taking over a team that is supposedly coming out of a rebuild. Not necessarily like making the playoffs, but they're starting the upward trajectory.
Sure, yeah. It's like the I always the letter V, right? Like, that's like the rebuild, right? You crash, then you go up. And the Lions, yeah, Campbell took over before they had even really, I think, hit.
I think
rock
last
bottom.
year was the bottom out year,
right? And then now, hopefully trending up again. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, for sure.
So Dan Campbell, you can make a little bit more of an argument. He was given a longer leash because there was no expectations for the team. So maybe it is a little tighter on Derek Lalonde because this team has some expectations to them. But I do think that when it comes to best and worst case scenarios, best case scenario for him is obviously, like you said, power play and penalty kill take a huge step forward. Team's production and scheme takes a whole huge step forward. I mean, golly, the The
The
bar,
offensive scheme needs to get significantly the playing not to lose, like parking of the bus thing of
yes.
last year drove me up a wall. Yeah,
Well,
for
also
sure.
when it comes
No
to
aggressiveness.
offensive zone entries,
Yeah.
if
No
I
aggre
can,
it was the least aggressive NHL team I've ever laid my eyes on. Yeah.
they would just dump and chase, which doesn't work at the NHL level. So best case scenario, you need to see the penalty and the penalty kill and the power play take a step forward, as well as the offensive scheme. You need to see even there's a lot that needs to improve. Even strength goals against needs to drastically improve. I think that might be the biggest thing. Even strength goals against needs to drastically improve. Goals for needs to improve. But when it comes to his realistic best case, I'm not going to come in here and expect Derek Lalonde as a first year head coach with a team of guys he's never seen before to just immediately make this team a playoff team. I think his best case scenario is very much in line with the team's best case scenario, which is fifth or sixth in the division. If this team finishes fifth or sixth in the division because of him, not in spite of him, then I will see it as a successful season. Now, if the team finishes seventh or eighth, I would mark that as a worst case scenario, as in the team did not improve whatsoever in terms of, I'm sorry, not fifth or sixth, fourth or fifth as best
Right.
case scenario. But if they finish below that, sixth, seventh, or eighth, that would be my worst case scenario, because that means the team didn't take nearly as big of a step forward with the added depth. And really, all you can do is obviously you can look at the players and see if they didn't pan out, but look at the line combinations, look at the scheme. Then you know that maybe it's not working quite yet, but in the end, you're still going to have more patience. You're not going to fire Lalonde after year one
Sure.
unless they're historically bad, because you realize that it takes a while for schemes to click.
For sure. And I think there's just so many like moving parts on how you can grade a head coach in the NHL. Like I, if we're if we have the exact same record as last year, but the special teams numbers go up, and I guess it'd be pretty hard to do that, but to have the same record as last year and have the special teams numbers significantly improve. But if we're around, let's say we're the same seed, maybe not the same record, but we're around the same seed, we're around that um still like 7-6 range. Like if the power play numbers look up and we continue seeing improvements and good production from the young core, and the players that we signed are solid, I agree with you. I think that he's not like, oh, you got, the 6th seed your first year, you're out of here and we're just like off ship. Like I agree with you. I do think best case scenario is probably 4 seed. That's like the
The best
everything
case.
right. Like everything clicks, everything's fantastic. We take a huge leap forward. I think that's like the very much best case, like almost seems unobtainable best case, but best case for sure. And then worst case is probably like you slide back to like the 7th seed. We're not going to be worse than Montreal. You can go ahead and clip this, whatever. It's not going to happen. But
Why would
there's
I
just
click this? I don't want you to be wrong.
that a lot of people do. A lot of people enjoy when I'm wrong. But there's just I think that a lot more will be graded on in year one, will be graded on like how individual players and individual schemes look, rather than just like straight up win-loss record. That's
Yes,
the point that I've been
absolutely.
trying to say this entire time. Is just like I think that there's a lot more that we can grade him. Like we can be the 6th in the division again and still have a lot of optimism about the following season, about like then, making a playoff push the year after next.
That's honestly, you put it perfectly there at the end. I can't say it any better myself, so I won't. Let's go into the next ad read and we'll finish it out with a how do you feel about a Friday?
Let's do it.
So this is going to be a PSA by the NHTSA about driving sober. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that can happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone? Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, let's finish out the week on a lighter note. We haven't done a how do you feel about it Friday, rather, in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And so I just want to lead it off with how do you feel about my quarter zip, man? I mean, you kind of hinted at it earlier, but
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I noticed the first thing I noticed when I jumped on stream, and I guess I forgot to say something, but yeah, no, that thing's sweet.
Yeah, birthday gift from the fam this past birthday, but it's been so hot all summer that I haven't worn it. But today I was like, you know what, I'm gonna rock it. So
this
unfortunately,
winter, that thing's gonna be used this winter. Yeah. That thing, yeah.
I'm gonna stand out like a sore thumb in public with the bright red just top. But unfortunately, there is no way of buying it because it was custom made by family. So unfortunately for you listeners,
it's still sweet though.
It's a one of, so its value is very high. I'll sign it. You know,
it's actually game worn.
It's game worn. I like that.
How do you feel about? Have you been watching Hard Knocks?
I have.
How do you feel about it?
So I didn't see the third episode yet because
I haven't seen the third episode.
Life is busy, but I've seen the first two.
Yep.
I like it a lot. You got to come into it realizing that it's intentionally kind of designed. Well, that's not necessarily true, but for the Lions, because of where they're at and where their expectations are, it's kind of designed just to be a huge, long hype video for the Lions.
For sure.
Because Lions have been bad for so long, and now we've talked a lot about Dan Campbell and the Lions today. We've talked about Dan Campbell and the Lions and how he's inspired hope in the locker room, inspired hope in the fan base. So Hard Knocks knows what they're doing, HBO knows what they're doing, and they're hitting on that. And so it's really, really good. I really enjoy the dichotomy between, you know, what certain players on the team are like. I mean, when you listen to Aiden Hutchinson and Jamal Williams talk,
anytime Jamal Williams speaks, I am ready to run through a brick wall.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they're both they're both really interesting and good listens. Interesting is a dumb word. They're both really good listens in the way they talk and speak about the team. Like Jamal Williams is very much all team. Like he's all about the team. And Aiden Hutchinson is too, but like his mind in year one is just all about I'm locked in. I'm going to be the best player that I can be. I want to be the best player out there. Jamal Williams is locked in on like the team as a whole. And this is what I've been feeling, as in he wants the team to be really, really good. And obviously Aiden Hutchinson does, but it's like the difference in how they talk is like, it's both so exciting to listen to for a little bit different reasons. Both those players are so fun to hear from.
I mean, I want, especially for the position Hutchinson plays at, like, I want my, top 3 overall pick, like rookie defensive end to be like, I'm going to destroy whoever is put in front of me. And yeah, Jamal Williams, man, I give that dude a lifetime deal. I love that man. Oh, golly. What a great human being. Yeah. But I agree with you. I'm really it's impossible not to like it if you're a Lions fan.
How do you feel about Albert Pujols' little Terry's going on?
I don't know, man. I like everybody loves Albert, and I'm just like, I've never been like a huge Pujols like lover. I really haven't. Like everybody is just so like, like we want to see him like get to 700 so bad and like whatever. And I don't know, man. I'm not like actively rooting against him or anything. Like obviously, if you want, like
you're indifferent.
We see history. Like I'm gonna take it, right? Like 700 has only been done. You can count on one hand how many people have 700 career homers, but like if he doesn't get it, I'm just gonna be like, okay, cool. Like I'm not gonna be heartbroken. I'm not like actively watching every Cardinals game, like pulling for him super hardcore. It's like, I don't know.
Whatever. Can I follow up with another baseball question? Because I saw this the other day.
Yeah, of course.
How do you feel about the fact that the active leaders in carrying no hitters past the 6th inning?
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit of cherry pick
Verlander.
stacked. It's Verlander, Scherzer, and surprisingly Anibal Sanchez, who honestly, out of the three of those guys, is probably the most surprising in the way he's reinvented himself to have a resurgence in his late in his career.
Yeah, he did a little bit there. Yeah, I mean, like, it, makes sense. Verlander had what, like 13 or 15 or something ridiculous, however long the sample size was. I think
Well,
it
the
was
fact that he's the fact that
over
he's doing this at 39 after
7
Tommy John
years.
surgery too is incredible.
Yeah, he's unreal, man. I think that there is I think he'll probably like man.
Is he going in with an Astros cap?
Okay. Don't be talking crazy. Um it's so like last offseason, his value was like at his lowest. Like you could have all reports pretty much said like it's either back to Detroit or like Houston. He's probably just gonna stay in Houston. Like he was 40 coming off Tommy John. Like his value has never been lower. And even as a rookie, his value was higher. That like he was a top prospect, right? Like his value in his career has literally never been lower than it was last offseason. And yeah, you just didn't really do. And I know like the qualifying offer thing and everything, but like I don't know, man. That's just you had an opportunity to bring him in last season. I guess it wouldn't have mattered this year. Like the pitching's been good for us.
I mean,
The
how much of
pitching's
a
been really
domino
good.
effect? How much of the domino effect does it have, though, having Justin Verlander come back off Tommy John surgery at 39 and just perform out of his mind like he is?
I, th- God himself could not make this team hit a baseball. It
Fair
doesn't
enough.
matter. Like
Fair enough.
there's no like, oh, we have JV and he's doing really well. And like the home, like none of these dudes were growing up Tigers fans except for Eric Haas. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they're like, oh, JV's back. Like woohoo, like we all are. They're like,
Miguel would
okay,
have hit
that's
30.
my
I'm telling you.
teammate now. And so it's and even if they were Tigers fans, it's not going to make them raise their OPSs from 550 to 800. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so. This isn't just like, oh, it's the worst offense in baseball this year. And like, we're looking to take steps forward. Like, this is quite literally one of the worst offenses in the history of the modern era of baseball. And it's embarrassing. So, another pitcher would not have changed that, I guess, is my final answer there.
Like it. Your turn.
How do you feel about the word interesting?
It's dumb. And you're the reason why I think it's dumb now. Because you're right. It means nothing. It's a filler word.
It is.
Like, what does interesting mean? When something's interesting, it's just it's such a bad adjective to use.
It doesn't mean anything. It could be positive, it could be negative, it could be especially like over text. Because like if you can hear the inflection in someone's voice when they say it, you can kind of be like, oh, that's a sarcastic interesting, or that's a positive interesting, or that's a negative one. Over like if you're writing the word interesting, erase it and rethink of a different word. Because like I
think a lot of
you,
people
better words exist to describe what you're thinking of. It literally means nothing. And I went on a whole tangent about this like a year ago on Locked On Tigers. And now anytime on the show that I say the word interesting, I stop myself and say out loud, interesting is a dumb word, and then think of a new word to pick. Like I refuse to say the word interesting as best I can.
It's such a passive aggressive adjective too. Like if you're trying to, and I know I've done it, but if you're trying to describe something you're not really like a big fan of player wise, but you don't want to outright say that was a crappy play or this player is bad, you just go, that was a interesting play, you know?
Right.
Like it's just,
well, that's the thing. You can use it in so many different situations because it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Like,
you're right.
It's so dumb, dude. I cannot stand that word. And I've made an active attempt over the last like 12 to 14 months to like never say it because I think it doesn't accomplish anything.
All right, we got time for one more. How do you feel about Phil Kessel to the Vegas Golden Knights?
Man, I don't really. I think it's pretty like renowned that nobody really likes Vegas anymore. I think it was like
no one
a
likes
cool,
Vegas.
you know what I mean? Like the first
I liked
year,
them at first.
right? Like the first season, it was like, oh my goodness, they're good and they're an expansion team. It's cute and cool. And then like pretty much immediately after season one, people stopped liking Vegas. Yeah, I mean, like, definitely a good value move. Like, if you look at the contract, like, definitely a solid value move for him. But
It's good
I
for
don't
Kessel
really,
too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I don't wish success to the Vegas Golden Knights. I'll say so.
Yeah, but I wish success to Phil Kessel. And like if Phil
I
Kessel at
agree.
his
I agree.
age
I
is
like Phil
capable of
Kessel.
putting up 40 points with the Arizona Coyotes, then he'll probably
I
do
agree.
even better with the Vegas Golden Knights. So I
Yep.
think he's going to have a good season. I'm excited for him. He's a great player still.
Vegas
I'm just not
has
excited
an
for
offense,
Vegas.
man.
Oh yeah,
Vegas really does have an offense. And like the back end is going to be probably where some of the question marks lie
yeah.
between goaltending and defense both, but they
Well,
have a really, really electric offense. It's going to be
it's
they're going to be in a lot of take the over.
yes,
BetOnline.ag, take the
yes.
over on Vegas games this year. Yeah.
Because the over sorry, not the over. You're right. Their offense is potent, but their goaltending is a huge question mark because Robin they traded Fleury to Chicago obviously
Yep.
last offseason, and then this offseason Robin Leonard has undergone double hip surgery.
Yeah.
So their goaltending is a huge question mark. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can.
They don't have
Sorry, not
that deep of
interesting,
a defense either. Yeah.
not incredibly, but
But that
I think
offense is deep and good, man.
they'll be in
That's
play. They'll be in playoff conversations. They missed this
for
past year,
sure.
but I think they'll be definitely in the
Or
conversation.
even like last year was even like I don't want to call it a fluke because like they lost a lot of games, but
Yeah,
like
they lost to us.
they had a there was that one graph, remember, that had like everyone's playoff probability on it, and Vegas's with like 20 games left in the season, right? Was like 90 something percent, and then they missed the postseason because they just like dang near lost out.
Yeah,
So like they probably should have been there last year too. Like it's still a good team. It's just going to be a lot of high scoring games, and yeah, I do root for Phil Kessel even though I don't really root for Vegas. So
that's fair. All right, that's going to do it for us on Lockdown Red Wings for the week. We'll be back on Monday. Not really sure what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Thanks for making Lockdown Red Wings your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Lockdown NHL. Lockdown experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Lockdown NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. Yeah, Scotty, any final thoughts, man?
we ball
We ball. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
every day. Bet online.